Gaku Kata is a timid prodigy who made it into an elite school on scholarship, thanks to his genius with numbers. Ever since he was a kid, math was his entire world. Naturally, the school expected him to shine at the annual math Olympiad. But when the big day came, he froze completely blanked out and handed in an empty sheet. The next day, the furious principal and board grilled him. Their school had never lost the Olympiad before, and now Gaku had ruined that perfect record. All Gaku ever wanted was to become a great mathematician, but that one failure shattered his dream. Now, instead of solving equations, he's flipping noodles in the school cafeteria to support his dad while finishing his last 6 months at school. His coworker, listens to his sad story. She's surprised she'd heard he was the genius of the school, not some fallen star. O's chasing her own dream of a sports scholarship while working part-time, so she asks Gaku to tutor her nephew. But teaching isn't his thing. Cooking, though, that comes to him as naturally as breathing. One day, while he's cooking, Gaku accidentally splashes ketchup on his face. O freaks out, but he shrugs it off and keeps working. Just then, a hooded stranger wanders in, drawn by the smell of Gaku's cooking. O gets her staff meal, takes one bite, and nearly faints from how good it tastes. The hooded guy insists on trying some too, but when Gaku says it's for staff only, the guy just takes the plate, devours it, pats Gaku on the head like a dog, and walks away as if nothing happened. Later, Gaku is summoned again by the principal, who demands he enter the next Olympiad to redeem himself. But Gaku refuses. He's lost confidence and doesn't want to go through that humiliation again. Furious, the principal slams his desk. On his way out, Gaku bumps into the same hooded guy, now revealed as Kai, a 23-year-old prodigy chef with his own one-star restaurant. Kai is blunt. Gaku has potential but is wasting it. Over Neapolitan noodles, Kai pushes him to stop sulking and start believing in himself again. Then, the hammer drops. Gaku is expelled for refusing the Olympiad, and the school demands he return the scholarship money. His hard-working dad, who dreams of Gaku studying abroad, can't know the truth. The principal mocks him, calling him a disgrace. But Kai isn't done with him. That evening, at a prestigious banquet, Kai forces Gaku into the kitchen to prepare Neapolitan for the school's VIP guests. Nervous and insecure, Gaku almost gives up. But thinking of his father's sacrifices, he pushes forward, adds his own twist to the noodles, and serves them. The guests are stunned. At first, they scoff at such a basic dish. But one bite later, their eyes widen. The flavors are nostalgic, comforting, and explosively delicious. Even the snobby critic who mocked it realizes he's already licked his plate clean. Meanwhile, the principal just sits there, baffled, wondering how on earth this simple boy and his ordinary noodles managed to steal the spotlight. Even though the guests were blown away by the Neapolitan, the principal just smirked to himself. He knew he was only using them, and he planned to ditch them soon enough. Still, after the meal, he politely asked everyone if they enjoyed it. The guests praised the dish, saying they never thought such a simple plate of noodles could move them like that. That's when Kai leaned forward and asked if they could call out the chef who made it. The principal agreed until his face went pale. Out walked Gaku, slowly and calmly. Kai took the chance to brag on his behalf. He explained that Gaku had already pushed Neapolitan noodles to their limit. He broke it down step by step. First sauté the onions until the Maillard reaction kicks in, then toss in bratwurst and bell peppers, and finally stir-fry the pasta with ketchup. But Gaku's real trick. He pushed the pasta to one side of the pan and poured the ketchup directly onto the other. That raised the ketchup's temperature faster, unlocking a richer tomato aroma. The guests gasped. Who knew such a tiny detail could change everything? But Kai wasn't finished. He revealed that whenever Gaku serves Western food, he even heats forks to exactly 45 degrees Celsius, making them perfectly warm to the touch. The guests were stunned. They admitted the forks had felt unusually comfortable, and realized how much it boosted their dining experience. Kai kept hyping him up, while Gaku shifted uncomfortably under the spotlight. Gaku admitted he only discovered the trick after eating Kai's soggy Neapolitan, which had been a setup all along. The guests stared at him in disbelief, while the principal drenched in sweat. He realized Gaku was cooking with pure math, and that made him a rare genius. The VIPs instantly wanted to fund the school even more, just for Gaku's sake. The principal had no choice but to bow and thank Gaku, though his twisted expression made it clear he hated every second of it. Later, Kai told Gaku that his mathematical brain was meant for cooking, and if they worked together, they could revolutionize the kitchen. But then Gaku woke up in a cold sweat. It was all just a nightmare. He went downstairs, where his dad was excited about his Tokyo University acceptance. Over breakfast, Gaku tried to calm him down, saying he knew he'd done well on the exams. While watching TV, Gaku's attention shifted to a familiar face, Mashi, a math Olympiad prodigy. She bragged about acing her entrance exam, and Gaku remembered their first meeting. She had once asked him a simple math question, but instead of just solving it, she invented her own theory for it. That moment convinced him she was someone special. His dad noticed his son's mixed feelings and hurried off to serve him more food. Gaku thought about how sweet life with his dad was, but also how uncertain his own future felt. Finally, he told his dad he was heading into Tokyo to figure things out. After a long trip, Gaku arrived at Kai's restaurant, where he was greeted by Rona, the sous chef. She recognized him instantly as the Neapolitan genius and offered him wine. Everything in the restaurant, even the glasses and doorknobs, was carefully temperature-controlled. She explained that Kai had spoken very highly of him, and she respected him for earning such rare praise. Rona then served him a beautifully plated dish, though she warned him bluntly, "This world isn't for someone like you. You're not ambitious enough to survive fine dining." But Gaku cut her off politely. "Stop talking. Let me taste it first." One bite, and he was transported. He instantly identified crab as the core ingredient and was fascinated by how she'd combined it with pork. Then he did something that shocked her. He grabbed a pen and paper, scribbled math equations, and created a formula for her dish. Every deduction was spot on. Rona smiled, testing him one last time about the crab, and Gaku nailed it, crab roe. She was floored. At that moment, Kai stepped out, clapped Gaku on the back, and declared him a rookie chef. Rona and her colleague were stunned. Kai had never praised anyone like this. Gaku admitted that he hadn't felt this excited about math since he was a kid, and now cooking gave him a way to use it. He thanked Rona for inspiring him, even if he wasn't sure whether he truly wanted to be a chef. Just then, Congressman Wichai, one of the banquet guests, entered. He had been so impressed by Gaku's Neapolitan that he became a sponsor for the restaurant. Tonight was his family member's birthday, and he requested that Gaku personally cook for them. Kai shot Gaku a deadly serious look. "Don't screw this up." The door opened, and Gaku froze. The guest was none other than Mashi, his old Olympiad rival and Wichai's daughter. She recognized him immediately, shocked to see him here. Her father proudly introduced Gaku as the chef who made the legendary Neapolitan. Gaku panicked, but Kai urged him to own it. Mashi, however, was caught off guard. Cooking with math? Was he abandoning his dream of being a mathematician? Her father assumed she'd be impressed by this mathematical cooking, but she admitted something surprising. Ever since childhood, what fascinated her most wasn't math itself, but Gaku's way of thinking. One day, Musashi finally gathered the courage to approach Gaku and ask him a question. Back then, she was fascinated by the way his mind worked mathematically. He had this playful yet brilliant way of solving problems, and it almost looked like he was having fun doing it. But now, that spark is gone. When they met again after years apart, Musashi felt his mathematical brilliance had dulled into monotony. To her, talking to him any further would only drag down her own intelligence. On top of that, she couldn't care less about food, so she saw no reason to stick around. She turned her back to leave. But before she could walk away, Kai cut in and challenged her. How could she call herself a great mathematician, yet refuse to taste food that was crafted with mathematical thinking? Gaku, realizing Kai was standing up for him, softened his expression. He admitted that her words stung a little, but that was fine. His duty today was to cook for her and to make sure it was delicious. He asked her, just once more, to give his food a chance. After some hesitation, Musashi agreed. She sat with her father while the kitchen prepared her dish. Gaku, however, struggled. The ingredients here were far too luxurious stuff he had never worked with before. At the same time, Chef Rana was busy scolding Hody, the sous chef, for always being late, while Hody defended himself by saying he had gone to fetch wine for the dish. The tension in the kitchen made Gaku realize Rana was right. This really was a battlefield. He didn't even dare to ask questions. Then something unexpected happened. Kai offered to be Gaku's assistant. He admitted Gaku was still an amateur with prep work, but promised not to interfere with his ideas. He'd simply explain the ingredients and let Gaku do the rest. Relieved, Gaku agreed. He planned to recreate one of Rana's dishes, but asked Kai to help by listing the umami values of each ingredient. Without hesitation, Kai wrote them all down from memory, explaining that while he only knew approximate numbers, he understood their characteristics deeply. Rana, watching, looked confused as Kai deliberately left out an important detail. When Gaku instantly deduced that there had to be a third umami component to achieve true synergy, everyone was shocked. Kai smiled. This was the test. If Gaku hadn't figured it out himself, he'd have been told to pack up and leave. But the test wasn't over. Rana served him oyster stock, throwing Gaku into confusion. The numbers didn't add up. It was a deliberate trap. Kai told him his math was fine, but in the real world, equations alone couldn't cook. Panic struck, and Gaku began flashing back to the time he froze during his math exam. Musashi, watching, shook her head and walked out, disappointed. Despite the pressure, Gaku refocused on an ingredient called tailfish. He believed it was the missing variable. Kai grinned. He had solved it. With scallops and prosciutto added, the dish came together. The waitress soon served it to Musashi and her father. The moment they took a bite, they were floored. The seasoning elevated the tailfish perfectly, the prosciutto paired beautifully, and the rice at the bottom tied everything together. It wasn't just tasty, it was nostalgic, giving the same warm feeling as Gaku's Neapolitan noodles. Musashi, moved, asked the name of the dish. Gaku smiled and said, "This is akazuke." It was a dish his father used to cook on special occasions. For the first time, Gaku realized cooking couldn't just rely on formulas and values. He had to trust his instincts. Musashi agreed, admitting that rigid logic kills creativity. Kai, however, reminded them both that cooking wasn't about the chef's opinion, but the diner's. Later, as the guests left, Gaku returned Musashi's forgotten notebook. She snatched it away with a cold expression, thanked him for the meal, and left. Her father scolded her for being so cold, but secretly, she had been idolizing Gaku all along, and still carried a photo of them together. Back at the restaurant, Gaku asked Kai if he could work there after graduation. Cooking gave him the same spark math once had, and he wanted to chase that impulse. Kai questioned whether Gaku was abandoning his dream of mathematics. Gaku replied that he'd figure out how to explain it to his dad. Tokyo University would always be there, but this opportunity wouldn't. Hearing that, Kai shook his hand and welcomed him aboard. At graduation, the school buzzed with rumors Gaku had gotten into Tokyo University, one of the hardest schools in the nation, only to drop out immediately. Owoni asked if he was sure, reminding him she'd also be far away chasing sports. His father gave his blessing, telling him never to face hardships alone and that he'd always have a home. Gaku felt guilty for abandoning his father's dream, but hoped it would be worth it. In Tokyo, Gaku was absorbed in scribbling notes on people's habits when Kai arrived. Kai told him to slow down. Work didn't start until tomorrow, and today he needed to find housing. They went to Kai's apartment, where Gaku was relieved by the affordable setup until Kai revealed it was actually his home, and Gaku would be living with him. That night, Kai cooked Neapolitan noodles. Gaku apologized, saying he should have cooked and at least wanted to handle chores. Kai waved off Gaku's concern. Nana, the maid, had already taken care of it. What mattered was the dish. If Gaku failed, he was useless and fired. The dish was Neapolitan, the one that started everything. Kai admitted Gaku's version had inspired him. Shocked, Gaku tasted Kai's. The noodles weren't dark red or heavy with tomato. Using his math brain, he discovered the hidden ingredient: lobster. Yet, even with calculations, he couldn't explain its flavor. Kai smirked. Logic was useless here. That's why he wanted Gaku to open the door of truth through cooking, not formulas. His first test: satisfy every staff member in a week. Fail, and he was done. That afternoon, Nana gave him a plain white trainee uniform. Disappointed it wasn't the sleek black of TV chefs, he learned white was mandatory. In the kitchen, chefs worked at blistering speed. Nervous but confident, Gaku introduced himself. A chef tested him with diced and brunoised potatoes. At first, he succeeded, earning praise until a massive foreign chef glared at him. The kitchen, he realized, was international. When he asked their names, they refused. Kai entered, announcing a full lunch booking. The staff became a flawless machine. Gaku watched in awe until the same chef tossed his potato cuts. He panicked midway, leaving them uneven. "Go home," the chef said. Deflated, Gaku stumbled, fell, and spilled the platter. No one noticed. Humiliated, he stepped outside. His real weakness wasn't skill, it was stamina. Kai's warning, "Fail once and you're out," echoed, and his resolve reignited. Nana found him. It was time for staff meal. She saw his exhaustion, but he pushed on. Given access to all ingredients, he chose scraps: potatoes, carrots, corned beef, even peels. Ran now watched, skeptical. It looked plain, but smelled promising. When served, the staff were unimpressed until the aroma hit. They taste, and the critiques turn into praise. Gaku's stew earns praise for its depth and timing, but when asked why he chose something so simple, he says, "Because it's nourishing." Silence follows. He'd noticed how drained they looked and wanted warmth, not luxury. Still, only 2 votes rise. He fails. Kai warns, 1 week or he's out. Hody mocks him. Comfort food won't survive. Cooking is war. Gaku argues, but you all said it was delicious. Hody calls him naive, too math-bound, his mistake being simplicity. 5 days later, Gaku's attempts with fancy ingredients flop. Hody berates him, and panic sets in. Then he sees a message from his dad, unanswered kindness that rattles him. At that moment, Wolny visits on crutches. She admits she pushed too hard, tore her meniscus, and turned to cooking. She shares homemade miso. One taste floors him. They both feel comfort, and she cries. Inspired, Gaku asks to take her lunchbox to the restaurant. That night, while staff doubt him, he's already inside, modeling the dinner rush with math, moving with shocking efficiency. Hody admits he's impressed but warns data isn't enough, his body must learn. Gaku insists numbers will suffice, unsettling Hody. At staff meal, Gaku declares the theme, homesickness. He admits his mistake was serving plain Japanese meals, ignoring their diverse backgrounds. This time, he aims for a universal Japanese comfort dish. He serves stew again transformed. Beef tenderloin steeped in soy-rich broth. One bite stuns potato and meat stew reborn. A Chinese member is amazed it suits his palate. Another praises the melting beef and onion soy layers. Gakko explains the broth base. Kai details the water bath tenderloin at 56 degrees C, ensuring even flavor. Hody discovers black flax burnt vegetables. Gaku reveals, blackened potatoes, mashed skin and all, are the best seasoning. Outrageous, but delicious. Kai observes most chefs bend toward foreign tastes, but Gaku doubled down true Japanese stew, yet universally delicious. Gaku admits Kai's Neapolitan taught him stew shouldn't rely on nostalgia. Cooked at full potential, it could stand worldwide. His goal, prove stew's power to foreigners. The staff prank him, pretending disappointment before laughing. One by one, they reveal their names. Hody gives Gaku a staff jacket, thanking him for the best stew he's ever had. The others congratulate warmly. Kai, proud, reflects. Gaku has gone beyond math, into anthropology like Chef Yona, a mathematician turned Michelin chef who studied human taste as deeply as numbers. Kai wonders if Gaku has that same potential. The next day, Gaku brings Wolmy homemade food, thanking her for inspiring him. She suggests eating together in the park. Elsewhere, a strange man in glasses throws darts with mechanical precision, jotting numbers in a notebook, unsettling bar patrons. Later, Gaku proudly tells Wolmy his amorous even surpassed his stew. Hod praised it. She feels his joy. Meanwhile, Inui asks Gaku to use math to help him woo Rana. Gaku introduces optimal stopping theory, though Inui just hears, there's hope, and hugs him too hard, scolded by Wong. Still, Kai won't let Gaku serve customers, only staff. Gaku feels stuck, like in math. On a call, he admits to Wolmy he feels useless, then falls asleep mid-sentence. Annoyed, she sighs. He dreams. Kai allows him to serve, but the diner is Musashi, who warns the wrong dish can ruin a life. She demands he serve Heroes, his old math rival who once humiliated him. In the dream, Heroes approaches. Gaku writhes until Kai intervenes. That night, Kai cooks perfected omuris with white truffles and seamless texture. Gaku is stunned. Kai says a true chef must use any ingredient, no matter how costly. Smirking, he teases Gaku about moaning in sleep. Flustered, Gaku admits it was about Heroes. Gaku recalls his childhood dream of becoming a mathematician until Heroes crushed it. At the Math Olympiad, Heroes triumphed while Gaku failed. By junior high, Heroes was so far ahead that even casual talk felt lopsided. To Gaku, Heroes was a flawless mirror of who he wished he could be. Compared to him, Gaku was just fragile weakness. He asks if Kai ever had such rivals. Kai remembers briefly, then answers coldly, I had friends like that once. But I beat them, that's why I'm here. Then he explains why Gaku hasn't served customers. Math is his only weapon, and he hasn't mastered it. Unless he overcomes that weakness, he'll never stand before diners. Still, Kai knows Gaku shines only on stage. His best training is to face his true fear. Finally, Gaku confesses, his greatest fear is Heroes. The name makes Kai flinch. Has Heroes won anything recently? Gaku recalls yes, the Masami Casino Award. Kai slams down a newspaper. Their restaurant is catering the ceremony. Both Gaku and Heroes will be there. To Kai, it's fate. He declares Gaku will serve that day. Meanwhile, Musashi gets a call from Heroes. He invites her and Gaku to Princeton. She refuses, her father wouldn't allow it, and Gaku couldn't afford it. But she hears cheering in the background. He's at a Princeton bar with Japanese students. Before hanging up, he says he'll return to Japan soon and visit Gaku with her. Misashi hesitates, but Heroes insists their reunion is inevitable, that fate has bound the three of them to unlock the universe's truths together. The day of the math awards arrives. Gaku congratulates Heroes, who is glad to see him but surprised he chose cooking. Gaku insists he's only a trainee. Heroes says catering suits him perfectly. Confidently, Gaku claims he's prepared a dish only he could make, but when he lifts the lid, it's empty. Shock spreads, Heroes looks disappointed, Kai and Mei walk away, and Gaku freezes until waking in his bed. A nightmare. On campus, Gaku joins Masashi at lunch. He reveals he'll serve food at Heroes' ceremony. She calls it torture ditching math only to serve a star mathematician and warns he'll need nerves of steel. Gaku admits nightmares haunt him, especially one where Heroes was friendly, which felt impossible after he quit math. Masashi says he should focus on real customers, but Gaku confesses the dream rattled him, he couldn't create anything, and Heroes was the last person he wanted to see fail. She scolds his timidity, asking why he dumped this on her. He says she's the only one who'd understand. Noticing he brought no lunch, she offers half her sandwich. But Gaku pulls out one for her still warm. Masashi is stunned by his deep-fried creation, packed with layers of flavor like a mystery box. Gaku explains he designed it so every bite surprises. His shining eyes remind her of the same joy he once had for math. She recalls living in isolation until he showed her math could be fun and shared. She admits he once seemed unbeatable, but smirks that now she's far ahead. Setting that aside, Gaku confesses Heroes' rising talent bothers him. Math used to be fun, but competing with Heroes turned it into pressure. Masashi suggests maybe he lost his joy when Heroes' name appeared on the award list. Gaku remembers regaining that joy when he cooked fish for her. Realizing this, he grabs her hands and thanks her sincerely. She blushes until his phone rings. It's Wee, boasting about a new record and inviting him to dinner. Masashi, jealous, smacks him and storms off. That evening, Kai assigns chefs for the ceremony, Milo on fish, Hody on dessert. Soup and meat will be contested open to everyone, even newcomers. In 3 days, only the winners will handle those categories. Excited, everyone applies. Then Gaku shocks all by declaring he'll enter every category. Hody is stunned, Kai smirks. While others rush to practice, Gaku lingers. Waiters warn he's reckless, only 6 months in yet triple the workload. He admits it but wants to cook as much as possible. On his way out, Inui warns he's gone too far, then proposes a deal. They'll taste each other's dishes to sharpen skills. At Inui's apartment, they cook together. Inui reveals his family runs a top Kyoto restaurant, but he left after clashing with his father's rigid traditions. He dreams of fusing modern techniques with Kyoto classics to break boundaries. Gaku realizes Inui isn't rejecting tradition, he's revolutionizing it. 3 days later, the contest begins. Kai, Hody, and Milo sit in silence, waiting for dishes bold enough to impress. Anuvi proudly presents his dish, confident in his work. Milo and Hody taste it first, and they're blown away, praising his soup as a true reflection of fine Japanese cuisine. Inui's heart soars, thinking this might finally be his chance to win. But then Kai speaks. With his usual bluntness, he dismisses the dish as unworthy. Sure, the soup is tasty, he admits, but its aroma fades the moment the lid is lifted. For a banquet, where presentation and lasting impact matter most, that's unacceptable. A chef who ignores the dining setting is simply arrogant, Kai declares, crushing Inui's 3 sleepless days of effort with a single critique. Calmly sipping his wine, Kai tells him he's lost yet another chance. Meanwhile, Gaku is in the kitchen, preparing his dish. Hearing Kai's harsh rejection, he feels bad for Inui, knowing the sweat he poured into that soup. Next up is Wang, who presents an eel soup. He explains he made it because he heard Japanese people enjoy eating snake-like dishes. The judges are impressed. Pod praises how perfectly he handled the eel. Milo has no complaints, and Kai even admits he has nothing to criticize. For Wang, the dish is personal. Snake soup is a treasured delicacy from his hometown, Hong Kong. Inui recalls how Wang once told him Hong Kong's proud culinary traditions are slowly fading away, and how he treasures his humble roots. Years ago, Kai himself stumbled into Wang's restaurant in China, tasted his cooking, and was so impressed that he encouraged Wang to move to Japan. Now, seeing Wang praised, Gaku realizes that beneath his cold exterior, Wang has a story too. After receiving glowing reviews, Wang does something unexpected. He walks straight over to Gaku, his rival in the soup category. The tension rises. Then Kana steps forward with his dish. His story goes back to France, where he first encountered Kai. While sightseeing in Lyon, he dined at a restaurant where Kai worked as a sushi chef. At first, Kana scoffed at the idea of a Japanese chef cooking French cuisine, but after tasting Kai's food, he was left speechless. That moment inspired him to come to Japan and study under Kai. Milo loves Kana's dish, praising its harmony of flavors. Kana beams with joy until he notices that Kai, once again, looks utterly unimpressed. As Gaku struggles to finish his dish, Shishido steps up with his roasted chicken. It looks simple, but the judges know better. Pod praises the skill required to roast it perfectly, while Kai calls it an excellent celebratory dish. Carving it in front of guests would lift the whole atmosphere. Shishido bows, crediting his training under Kai. Unlike the others, he doesn't want independence. Skilled as he is, he'd rather follow Kai forever, refusing to reveal anything about his past with him. Meanwhile, Rana is plating her dish when Gaku asks why she works at Kai's restaurant. She avoids the question, but Nana interrupts, exposing her secret. Rana is the daughter of the man who originally owned the restaurant before Kai bought it. The truth stuns her. Years ago, her father mismanaged the restaurant into ruin. Kai, freshly returned to Japan, bought the place simply because he liked its location. Back then, Rana was just a part-timer, but Kai noticed her raw talent and let her stay on. Hearing Rana's story, Gaku guesses that Kai must have really liked her to let her keep working at the restaurant. Rana instantly shoots him a cold glare, accusing him of trying to mess with her in the middle of the competition. Cornering him against the wall, she snaps that he has no idea how hard she's worked, and now he's playing mind games. Gaku quickly denies it, saying that's not his intention. Gaku then adds that if she's here to learn from Kai and gain experience, that's actually a great reason. He also says he finally understands why everyone is so devoted to the restaurant. Rana isn't moved. She scowls and reminds him that when they first met, she told him he lacked ambition and wasn't cut out to be a chef, and she still stands by that. She points out how he entered more categories than anyone else yet doesn't even look nervous, which to her proves he isn't serious. But Gaku calmly replies that things are different now. He's not nervous anymore because he finally has real confidence. That stuns her. Finally, it's Gaku's turn to serve. Hoodie leans forward in anticipation. Everyone's curious because despite being a rookie, Gaku dared to enter all 3 categories. To their shock, he brings out just one dish, an appetizer made with couscous. Whispers ripple through the staff. If it took him this long to prepare a single plate, how could he possibly handle a real event? Kai steps in, explaining the history of couscous, surprised that Gaku chose something so unfamiliar to Japanese cuisine. Gaku answers that he remembered Kai's advice, never limit yourself, and always use as many ingredients as you can. Despite his slowness, Kai is intrigued and wants to taste it. Hody tries first. His eyes widen delicious, with a refreshing aroma. Milo and Kai agree, saying the flavor exceeded expectations. Gaku explains his process in detail, shocking the judges. Still, they worry it's too late to win since it lacks a strong impact. Just as Kai is about to give his verdict, Gaku signals N to bring out a pot. When the lid is lifted, a sweet aroma floods the room. Gaku explains that he intentionally waited until the judges had eaten 2/3 of their appetizer. Then, with a flourish, he pours a head broth made from the same ingredients over the leftover couscous, transforming it into a soup dish. The room gasps. Earlier, Inui had criticized him for being plain. That stung him into creating something only he could pull off. When the judges taste it, they're stunned again. The soup is even better than the appetizer. Kai praises not just the flavor, but also the presentation, awarding extra points for pouring the broth in front of guests. Inspired by Shishido's focus on entertaining diners, Gaku decided to add his own playful twist. Now Hody realizes why Gaku took so long. He wasn't just slow, he was crafting 2 dishes in one. Milo notices one last tray and asks about it. Gaku reveals hot pork cutlets, perfectly cooked. The judges dig in and once again have no complaints. Impressed, they admit Gaku did an outstanding job. Gaku explains his inspiration came from Musashi, who once told him that a meal should feel like a mystery box. You never know what's coming next. That thought drove his performance today, and the smiles around the room say it all. He nailed it. Kai gives his final verdict. Goku did excellent work. Just then, Rana walks in with her appetizer and asks the judges to try it. The next day, Milo gathers everyone to announce the winners. Musashi sits hunched over her desk, completely absorbed in a math problem that refuses to make sense. Her phone suddenly rings. Hiro's. Rolling her eyes, she assumes he's calling just to brag again. She snaps that she's busy and moves to hang up, but before she can, Hiro's blurts out that Gaku is now working as a chef. Shocked, Musashi steadies her phone, realizing it's a video call. She quickly tries to explain Gaku's reasons, worried Hiro's might twist them. But instead, Hirose beams and says he gets it perfectly. Cooking is math in action. According to him, Gaku is destined to be his assistant. Musashi jumps to defend Gaku, but Hirose bulldozes over her words, promising to see them both by the end of the year. His smug tone makes her skin crawl. Summoning her courage, she declares she'd never be his assistant, only for Hirose to casually propose marriage. He argues that since their lives revolve around math, tying the knot is simply logical. Musashi is floored. To Hirose, kindness is just another equation, impossible to decipher. She squats down, overwhelmed. Then, as if to rub salt in the wound, Hirose flashes his notebook on screen, showing that he's already solved the very equation she was struggling with. He ends the call, leaving Musashi stunned and breathless. She realizes the only way Gaku can prove himself is by serving a dish so brilliant it even impresses Hirose at the award ceremony. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, the competition results are revealed. Gaku's heart sinks when his name is missing from the winners board. Ran Na and Wang Kai celebrate instead. After pouring everything into his 3 dishes, he feels crushed. But before despair swallows him whole, Kai writes Gaku's name under the dessert category. Gaku is furious. Desserts aren't his thing. He storms into his room, ignoring Kai's calls. Kai patiently explains through the door the basics of pastry work, like scooping ice cream evenly. Finally, Gaku explodes, confronting Kai directly. He accuses him of breaking promises and shoving him into desserts despite all his hard work. At that moment, Milo dramatically drops in literally from the rooftop, siding with Gaku. He admits he admires him deeply but says everyone pushes him hard because they know he's capable of greatness. Gaku, frustrated, demands to know why his clever 3-course idea was rejected. Milo answers bluntly, because anyone could have made it. Kai steps in, explaining that Gaku has something no one else does: mathematics as a weapon. But his recent cooking abandoned that. If he just cooks like everyone else, he's wasting his potential. The words hit Gaku like a hammer. Knees buckling, he asks why, if they value him so much, they stuck him with desserts. With no clear answer, he bolts out, devastated. Later that night, he sits alone in a diner, ready to quit and go home. He remembers his dad's words that it's okay to return if things get too heavy. Pulling out his phone to buy a ticket, he notices a flood of unread messages from Romy, guilt stabbing him. But just as he's about to call his dad, a new message pops up from his father. Hirose has reached out, saying he's excited to taste Gaku's cooking and has something important to show him. Gaku's heart pounds. How does Hirose even know he's a chef? Fear and pressure crash over him. Just then, a waitress strolls over to Gaku, noticing how restless he looks. She asks if he's okay, then sets down a slice of strawberry shortcake in front of him. Gaku blinks in confusion. He never ordered it. The waitress chuckles and explains that anyone who orders hot tea gets the cake of the day for free. With that, she tells him to enjoy and walks away. Only then does Gaku notice he's not in a diner at all, he's in a cafe. He almost never goes to cafes, so why did he end up here today of all days? With no money, no real reason, and no plan, he wonders if fate dragged him here. Maybe this was a sign. He remembers how he often wanders into places that force him to confront what he's been avoiding. If he doesn't face desserts now, he'll regret it for life. He eats the shortcake down to the last crumb, then recalls what Hirose said about wanting to show him something. Checking his messages, Gaku finds it the prize-winning thesis Hirose promised to share. Meanwhile, back at the restaurant, Hot-Eye brings in a delivery of fresh fruit for the ceremony. Inside, he finds Kai sitting alone, looking troubled. Hot-Eye guesses it's because Gaku stormed out earlier. He tells Kai not to bother waiting. Gaku probably won't come back. Hot-Eye blames Kai, saying he pushed Gaku too far by sticking him in desserts. But Kai disagrees, insisting he was being fair. Hot-Eye shakes his head, warning that Kai has been isolating himself ever since he beat Tsuji Nanes. Before Kai can reply, the door slams open. Gaku walks back in. Hot-Eye looks like a fool, while Kai smirks knowingly. At the same time, Romy is outside the restaurant, peeking through the windows, trying to spot Gaku. Rana catches her and explains they're closed, but Romy insists she's just looking for someone. Both girls turn to look inside, and there's Gaku, focused and serious, working on desserts under Kai's watch. Kai notices Gaku still wearing his intern uniform and reminds him he's no longer an intern. Gaku calmly replies that when it comes to desserts, he is. Rana and Romy hide in the kitchen to spy on him, surprised that he actually came back. Kai begins teaching him how to make ice cream. Gaku is startled to find the recipe packed with numbers and formulas. From his car outside, Hot-Eye finally realizes why Kai put Gaku in desserts, because pastry work relies on precise math. It's perfect for Gaku, but the pressure could also break him. In the kitchen, Gaku keeps failing batch after batch. Kai pushes him harder, insisting that even a milligram off can ruin the dish. Ren now wants to step in, but Romy stops her, saying Gaku has nowhere else to run. He performs best at his limit, and this pressure will bring out his true ability. Between attempts, Kai asks why Gaku even came back. Gaku admits it was after reading Hiro's thesis. He spent hours trying to understand it, but couldn't. Normally, that would have crushed him, but this time he wasn't discouraged. Instead, he felt Hiro's loneliness radiating from every page. He realizes math itself is loneliness, and chefs carry that same burden. Kai and Hiro's both walk down lonely paths, admired by others, but never satisfied themselves. Gaku concludes that the lonelier the chef, the better his food. Pushed to the edge, Gaku vows to see this path through, even if it ends in failure. He faints, but Kai catches him and orders fruit to be prepared. Later, Gaku wakes to find Romy watching over him. She brushes off his questions, telling him to rest. Kai then arrives with strawberry tarts he made himself. Surprised, Gaku listens as Kai explains how he restored the tart's original crispy texture. Romy cuts in, snapping that Kai is exhausting Gaku instead of inspiring him. But Kai brushes it aside. When Gaku tastes the tart, he's stunned and starts to wonder if this is why Kai chose him, because only Gaku can create something truly unique. Kai grips his shoulders with a manic grin, declaring this is the Gaku he's been waiting for. Weeks later, the long-awaited awards ceremony arrives. Musashi steps out of her limo, visibly worried. Hiro's arrives too, his usual smug smile plastered on his face. Inside, chefs prepare their stations. For everyone else, it's just another event. But for Gaku, today will decide his entire future as a chef. The ceremony begins with the hostess praising Hiro's as the youngest winner in the awards history. She adds that during his time at Princeton, he completed advanced theory papers and has since become famous worldwide, admired by scholars and fans alike. The audience erupts into applause as Hiro steps onto the stage. But while he speaks, Musashi feels uneasy. She can't shake the memory of when Hiro's suggested marriage not out of love, but so that she and Gaku could serve as his assistants in exploring the mysteries of mathematics. The memory nearly makes her flinch. Her thoughts drift to Gaku, who left the math world behind for the risky life of cooking. She wonders if his dish tonight will reflect his emotions and maybe help heroes understand him better. Deep down, she fears that unless Gaku creates something truly magical, he'll never grow as a chef and Heroes might crush his spirit completely. Heroes' intimidating blue aura only makes things worse. He approaches Musashi with a sharp gaze and asks where Gaku is. The weight of his presence makes Musashi feel that if Gaku's dessert doesn't stun the room tonight, Heroes could destroy both him and his dreams. Meanwhile, the kitchen is chaos. Wang focuses on soups with careful precision, while Rena rushes through appetizers at top speed. She even notices details like uneven flours and sloppy utensils, asking others to fix them. Then she glances at Gaku exhausted, drained. She gently tells him to rest, since he was thrown into pastry making with no experience. But to her surprise, Gaku calmly explains that his dessert is already prepared. Free of that burden, he insists on helping others. He can't just sit back while everyone else works. Milo brightens instantly at Gaku's determination. Rana, encouraged, gives him a task: fetch green apple, zucchini, and ginger, and mix them in a 3-to-1 ratio. These ingredients, carefully tested, are key to the dish. Gaku jumps in, and within minutes plates are ready and sent to guests. Hotai, watching the frantic pace, urges everyone to slow down. Guests mustn't sense panic from the kitchen. When Rana asks about Kai's absence, Hotai explains Kai will be late, so he's filling in for now. Then he asks how Rana feels about being the first to serve tonight. She admits she gave it her all, but is far more worried about Gaku. Out in the hall, guests taste her appetizer and are delighted it's a hit. Their anticipation for the main course grows. Back in the kitchen, however, Rana's worry deepens. She asks Hotai if Gaku is really ready to handle desserts, given how desperate his situation is. She recalls the time he couldn't even manage simple custard cream. But something changed after that failure. The next day, he began experimenting non-stop, buying ingredients with his own money, tasting them one by one, and writing endless notes. Rana turns to Hotai, himself a former pastry chef, asking if he understands Gaku's strange, obsessive behavior. Hotai just chuckles and shakes his head. He admits he's never seen a pastry chef like Gaku before. Nin steps out from behind Rana and explains that Gaku spent 2 whole weeks obsessively tasting ingredients, experimenting, and analyzing flavors in his own strange way. Then, out of nowhere, he announced he wanted to go back to his hometown in Yamanashi for 3 days, calling it a little escape from reality. Inui wasn't thrilled. He reminded Gaku that feeding 50 people dessert was no joke, and every day mattered. Hotai, however, put a hand on Gaku's shoulder and said he'd like to tag along, curious to see what Gaku was up to. So off they went to Yamanashi, with Uomi joining too. Back in the kitchen, Milo pestered Hotai for details about the trip, worried about Enzo, but Rana snapped at him, reminding him and Kai that they were the ones who pressured Gaku into this mess. Just then, Wang proudly announced his eel soup was ready, cutting the chatter short. The guests were waiting, and the ceremony had to stay on track. Still, Rana couldn't shake her curiosity. Why had Gaku suddenly dashed back home? Was he really chasing inspiration? In Yamanashi, Hotai grew annoyed watching Gaku wander aimlessly, while Uomi wondered if he was just taking a break from the kitchen chaos. Hotai reassured her sometimes chefs need to change their surroundings to see things differently. That's how he found inspiration back when he was a pastry chef. Desserts, he explained, demand both precision and creativity. Maybe Gaku's wandering was his way of thinking. Uomi realized Gaku seemed different now, more focused, less weighed down by fear. Hotai agreed, noting that Gaku had even become a little mysterious. Uomi admitted she followed him out of worry, and seeing his change moved her deeply. Then Gaku's cheerful dad showed up, delighted to see his son back and shocked that Gaku had actually brought friends to admire nature. He joked that Gaku was nothing like him, reserved and thoughtful instead of outgoing. Spotting Uomi, he even asked if she was the girl from the math Olympiad. He rarely heard Gaku talk about girls, so he remembered every name. Then, turning serious, he admitted Tokyo was the only place where Gaku could truly be himself. At that moment, Gaku called out to Hotai he had found his final ingredient. Everyone froze as Gaku calmly ate flower petals from the botanical garden. Uomi was horrified, but Gaku insisted this was the key to creating a dessert only he could make. Back at the banquet, things were going smoothly. Guests loved every dish, and Kai praised everyone's work, though he pointed out that Heroes was stealing the show with how much he was enjoying the food. When Gaku finally stepped forward, Kai offered to help him execute his ambitious plan. Gaku pulled out a detailed blueprint of his dessert, shocking everyone with his bold creativity. The others offered to help, but Gaku insisted that Kai alone was enough. The two worked side by side, moving in perfect sync. Watching from afar, Hotai was stunned. Gaku looked nothing like a beginner now. He was calm, precise, and completely in control. At the guest tables, the chairman remarked that Heroes deserved the award, but admitted the food itself was the real star of the day. Musashi, meanwhile, sat in nervous suspense, her heart racing over Gaku's dessert. Then Gaku appeared, calm and collected, as Heroes practically leapt up in excitement. Hotai, watching from the screen, realized Gaku had become eerily like Heroes himself, the one man Hotai once feared. Gaku congratulated the winners and presented his dish with quiet confidence. Musashi's anxiety spiked as the tension peaked. Finally, Heroes looked down at the dessert, his eyes widening in shock. Whatever Gaku had created, it had completely caught him off guard, and he couldn't wait to taste it. Heroes' eyes practically explode in shock. He rushes over to tease Gaku, even strikes a goofy pose to get his attention, but Gaku stays completely focused. When the time comes, Gaku grabs a dessert plate and hands it to Heroes. Nin sticks a mic to Gaku's mouth so he can explain what he made. Gaku confidently lists the basic ingredients, and the guests assume it's just their usual dessert. Rana worries it might not live up to their standards. It looks great, but taste is everything. Milo knows all their hard work will mean nothing if this dessert fails. Then comes the moment of truth. Gaku pushes Heroes to take a bite. Heroes and the guests taste it. At first, Heroes casually says it's okay, but then the real flavor hits him like a truck. Waves of amazing taste keep coming, even when he thinks it's over. Gaku tells them to keep eating, and every spoonful brings a new flavor surprise. When Heroes asks about the fruit, Gaku reveals it's grapefruit. The guests are stunned. Each bite feels like a brand new experience, and they're blown away by how incredible it tastes. Heroes desperately wants to criticize it, but every spoon just drags him deeper into delicious bliss. Kagura's father is so impressed that he asks Gaku to explain how he created such a masterpiece. When Kagura's father says Gaku's name, all the guests suddenly remember him, the kid who used to compete in math contests. Now he's a chef. That shocks everyone. Gaku takes the chance to explain that desserts can actually be created using shapes, numbers, and equations. He tells them desserts are the most important dishes and also the most complicated ones because they need precise calculations to be perfect. He explains that he got his inspiration after tasting the dessert Kai once made for him. That's when he realized he could use math to completely change the outcome of a dish. When a guest asks what kind of equation he used, Gaku breaks down how he structured the dessert. To the math lovers, he sounds like a genius. To everyone else, he might as well be a magic user. He also explains how he collected his ingredients, including the final one he got from his hometown. When asked about the element he used, Gaku proudly says plating because presentation matters just as much as taste. While explaining, Gaku is completely lost in happiness. Then Heroes suddenly asks why Gaku chose dessert in the first place. Gaku and Hyo exchange a bright smile. Gaku loves the question and explains that dessert is the most complex of all dishes. Sure, he could have made fish or meat, but those have limits. Dessert, on the other hand, can be anything, endless shapes, styles, and techniques. Dessert is infinite creativity. Heroes is totally blown away, and the guests burst into applause. Gaku's co-workers finally breathe a sigh of relief. After the event, everyone keeps talking about Gaku. Even Kagura sees him as her hero who saved her from massive pressure. Later, Rana and Hoi question Kai's harsh training methods, while Heroes admits that Gaku truly impressed him, and he wants to keep respecting him as a chef. But Kai doesn't regret pushing Gaku at all. Meanwhile, Gaku has fallen completely in love with pastry work because of its endless possibilities. Inu also gets great news. She makes it onto her swimming team and is overjoyed. As for Gaku, he happily continues his pastry journey. One day during a break, his father visits, and Gaku proudly serves him food while dreaming about how far he can go in the culinary world. And that's the end of the story.